Freedom Radio Hour. Live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Freedom Radio Hour. I'm your host, DJ Adam Cruz, and we're live and direct right here on Capital Radio 91.6 FM, the Heartbeat of Sudan, and on the web at freedomradiohour.com. I'd like to take this time to let our listeners and our viewers know that the Freedom Radio Hour is here not only giving you fantastic music, but we're here to be your number one source for music business news and trends from around the globe. Thank you so much for visiting our website at freedomradiohour.com, downloading our app, searching out Freedom Radio Hour on our YouTube channel, and leaving a comment and sharing everything that we're putting out there. Thank you so much. All right, let's jump right in. It's been an incredible time period dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. As you can imagine, with all of us around the world, it's really a really challenging, tragic time. Many of us are experiencing loss that we just didn't think we'd have to encounter at this level. But yet, here we are. So I wanted to first say that I am deeply in thought and in prayer to all of you out there that are suffering or dealing with family members or loved ones who are perishing from this terrible virus. But hoping that this episode would shine a light on what's going on in the music business, because as you can imagine, the music business is going to be adversely affected by everything going on with this pandemic. So let's jump right in. All right. First thing we want to talk about is a bit of a report that's come out from Alpha Data. They're behind some of the charting that you see on Rolling Stone magazine, for example. Anyhow, Alpha Data is giving us some preliminary views. You know that we're now in the second quarter. The end of the first quarter really saw some huge shifts, as you can imagine, as the pandemic hit and we started to stay home as a society by and large. All of these services, streaming services that is, are going to be deeply impacted by all of the switch up. So Alpha Data has published a report that has indicated that on-demand streams have dropped 7.3%. Streaming services like Pandora have dropped roughly 6 to 8%. And then on the higher side, you have digital sales of single songs that have dropped almost 11%. But some of the more staggering drops has been in the form of physical sales. As you can imagine, the retail stores that remain in the world have started to shut their doors as the pandemic hit. Those sales adversely affect the numbers for the last quarter of the year. So Alpha Data has indicated that physical sales of music has dropped almost 30% just in the end of that quarter. So the forecast, as you can imagine, is going to be pretty daunting, because they're saying that in the coming weeks, you're going to see more drops in the form of this. So on the one hand, you say, okay, that might make sense because we are in a time where a large swath of the population is unemployed. And so we start to turn off the services that are non-essential to our lives, and perhaps streaming might be one of them. But in another way, you start to think about ways in which we consume music, and it starts to make more sense, if you will. What do I mean? Well, the Alpha Data report also suggests why these drops are happening. There's three reasons. Individuals are normally enjoying music by commuting to work, at the office itself, or at the gym, or somehow in transit, right? So those three main things: gym, commuting / transit, and the third is being at the office. Those three instances is where we are enjoying a large amount of our music throughout the day. So when we're home in a quarantine situation, it's no surprise that those numbers have really dropped. Spotify in particular seems to be happy in terms of their numbers, because the number of subscribers themselves having dropped off that precipitously, but the number in terms of their wearable apps and the services car app, those two outfits have seen huge drops because, like I told you, people aren't commuting like they once were, and they aren't using wearable apps like during a gym session. So it's very fascinating that for music lovers, if you love music, you will love it even more during this time, and you'll look to music more during this time, especially when you consider the therapeutic qualities for music. But that doesn't seem to be translating well for the streaming outfits out there. I think what you might see in the future is a paring down of the number of streaming outfits out there. There are several of them, and I think as a result of the pandemic, we are going to see some of the lesser known streaming outfits start to close their doors because they can't sustain themselves when you start to see these drop-offs. 8%, 9% may not seem like a big deal to you or I, but for a company that sustains itself primarily from streaming media, you can imagine those drops means thousands and thousands of dollars in losses, and staff and costs. All those things aren't sustainable anymore if you're going to continue to experience more drops like that, right? But anyway, let's take a break. We're going to talk about a company that isn't doing so badly, and we're going to give you more information about this report from Alpha Data right here on the Freedom Radio Hour, your number one source for music business news and trends from around the globe. Capital Radio, 91.6 FM, and on the web at freedomradiohour.com. Come back with us, y'all.
From author and music industry leader Adam Cruz, check out the new book, Free the Music Business, Tips and Tales from an Indie Music Nerd. Available now on paperback, Kindle, audiobook, and soundtrack, courtesy of Mixtape Sessions.
Freedom Radio Hour. Live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM.
And we're back live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM, the Heartbeat of Sudan, and on the web at freedomradiohour.com. You're deep in the zone right here on the Freedom Radio Hour, your number one source for music business news and trends from around the globe. All right, I'm your host, Adam Cruz. Let's jump right back into it. All right, before we broke, we were talking about what's going on in the music business as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. How are the streaming numbers faring for the first quarter of the year? Not so great when you consider services like Pandora, online streams, single sale downloads, as well as album downloads. That's almost down 11%, the album. So I feel like there's a big change there in the music market. Alpha Data, the company behind this published report, they also talked about some genres that actually didn't do so badly. In particular, think about classical music, children's music, and folk music. Those three seem to be doing better in the streaming game than the others, like pop or R&B or hip hop, which I find just fascinating. But actually, it's not that surprising when you think if you do want to engage in music at home, and if your kids are at home, that would explain why there might be a propensity towards streaming children's music, right? And then you think about folk music, that kind of thing. I could see that being more soothing at home. So maybe that would explain that, but very fascinating. But I tell you, a big company that's not doing so badly during this time, this quarantine time that is, I'm talking about Netflix. Netflix has experienced a huge jump in subscribers. By the end of the first quarter, they have published a report that's indicated they have added almost 16 million new subscribers to their base. This is a company that's becoming bigger and bigger by the moment, especially when you consider the quarantine situation. Okay, so maybe music is not doing as well. It's not doing horrifically, but it's not doing as well as it used to. They're suggesting that the music rates are roughly around that week after Christmas time period where you see that lull. That's kind of the numbers we're at right now. But there is a strong indication that the numbers will actually get much worse before they get better. But like I was saying with Netflix, they've added almost 16 million new subscribers. And so they're not quite bragging about that though, because 85% of that number of the new additions that they're talking about is in regard to their international streaming division, which from what I understand from the reports were adversely affected by the stronger dollar. You see, if there's a stronger dollar, then that means it's going to impact negatively in other parts of the world. So while there is this almost 16 million bump up in number of subscribers for Netflix, they're not out there touting this humongous win, because I think the pandemic is causing losses, especially when you consider the changes in the value of the dollar, right? So this is like a really crazy time for us when you consider what these outfits are going to be like. Like I was saying before, I do feel very strongly that the lesser known services will start to pare down, and maybe they'll close their doors because they won't be able to deal with the losses that come their way. But I think it's another thing that we should really talk about is how us in the music game, especially in independent music and house music, how we should be dealing with the pandemic. You know, some labels feel like this is open season. There are gangbusters with the amount of releases that they're putting out. You'll see a big uptick in the number of releases for certain labels, and that's their strategy during this time period. Why? Because with music, you can do things remotely. You have been able to do things remotely for a long time. So the idea of us being home for producers is like a regular day, you know? But other labels, for example, Honeycomb Music, my partner Josh Milan and I, have a policy in place where we are not releasing material for pay right now. I think there's a sense that this might be in poor taste. So I think we've decided that if there will be any releases from Honeycomb, and there will be, it will be free, or it will be paired with something for pay perhaps later on. You know, but I think this is a really interesting time and what we'll see in terms of the music business to come. You know, some people feel like this is that time to put out a lot of music, and some people say we shouldn't. So I think it is the time to strategize for yourself if you're an artist about what will be your policy during this pandemic, and what will be the ramifications for you putting out music, asking people to pay, knowing that perhaps they may not have the money that they used to before to support your business. Anyway, let's take another break. When we come back, we're going to talk more of this music business right here on the Freedom Radio Hour, your number one source for music business news and trends from around the globe.
From author and music industry leader Adam Cruz, check out the new book, Free the Music Business, Tips and Tales from an Indie Music Nerd, available now on paperback, Kindle, audiobook and soundtrack, courtesy of Mixtape Sessions.
Freedom Radio Hour.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Freedom Radio Hour, your number one source for music business, news, and trends from around the globe. Capital Radio, 91.6 FM, the Heartbeat of Sudan, and on the web at freedomradiohour.com. I got to give you a bunch of titles and stories all back to back. Let's get right into it. In a prior episode, I was talking to you about the domination that TikTok is trying to engage in with their app. You know, TikTok has been the ultimate video sharing app. It's a short 15-second to 60-second experience. You could follow choreography from some of the music, from some of the favorite music that you love. You can select it, follow the choreography, and then post this video. It could go viral or not, but it's a lot of fun. My kids love it, right? So I talked before about TikTok and the company that owns it, BitDance. But to not be outshined, I knew that we were going to see announcements for other companies that were going to come up to try to take a bite out of the competition that is TikTok. So who's come up? Let's talk about YouTube. YouTube has announced the launch of a new app called Shorts. Essentially, YouTube is doing the very same thing that TikTok is able to do. With Shorts, you're able to download an app. You're able to select songs that are all already pre-licensed, ready to go. It will not be caught by their copyright infringement system, their content ID system. In other words, you won't have the issue that many of us have where you upload a video and then you have a takedown notice because the music that's being heard is infringing on copyright. So YouTube, in launching Shorts, is hoping that users will be able to add shorts into their repertoire and take up dancing and choreography just like they do with TikTok. And why is this a big deal? Well, as I told you before in a prior episode, BitDance had a little bit of a snafu, possibly, with the accusation that perhaps they haven't secured all of the licenses for the songs that they feature on the TikTok service. The Universal Music Publishing Group has threatened a lawsuit via this publishing association around TikTok and their allegations for not having properly licensed all of the songs. So here comes YouTube with Shorts to say, okay, here's a platform that's just like TikTok, will operate just the way you know and love, but the music will already be licensed, so all of the artists and songwriters and publishers will be paid. Okay, so you have that to consider. Then, of course, you have to pay attention to what's happening with video conferencing. Video conferencing, especially with Zoom, has taken the world by storm. Because we're home and we're practicing social distancing, it's no surprise that Zoom, especially because they had a bunch of issues around their security matters, in particular Zoom bombs, which were hackers that would jump into a meeting and put up some sort of illegal, whatever it was, porn or what have you, in the middle of a meeting. So Zoom has had to deal with a lot of their security issues and losses because people leave the service for something that is not dealing with that security matter. Okay, so a few things you should consider. Google Hangout has launched Google Meet, which will now be sort of a Zoom-like experience. Remember, Google has Hangout, which was sort of like a FaceTime type experience, you and several others. But now think of Google Meet in terms of taking it to the next level, just like in Zoom. So they're hoping that people will be able to utilize that service. So I thought that was interesting. Also, pay attention to Mixcloud. Mixcloud has just launched Mixcloud Live. This, I think, is going to be a game changer. Why? Because one of the biggest issues that DJs like me have is if we wish to go live and do a live stream, we run into these takedown notices where our sets are being muted or blocked or taken down because of the material that we're playing. Oftentimes it's music that we all know and love, but there's an infringement on that when we go live. So Mixcloud Live is here to say that the music that you're streaming on our service is not going to be interrupted, is not going to be muted or blocked in some way. Why? Because we in the Mixcloud community have gone the extra mile to secure the licenses needed. YouTube, like I told you with Shorts, is trying to tout the same thing. We have properly licensed all the songs, so TikTok is going to run into trouble. You'll have Shorts. Okay, so now you have other services like Facebook and YouTube that will take down your sets. Okay, now you might have Mixcloud Live. And already it's starting to create quite a buzz because a few of us are starting to utilize this service, Mixcloud Live, and see what happens. I have several of the material on the Freedom Radio Hour as well as the Mixtape Sessions Masterclass episodes up on Mixcloud already. But now with the live edition, it might be cool to see what would happen if we did a live stream. So those are some of the things you might want to pay mind to. The last thing is Facebook trying to take advantage of the live stream now during this quarantine time. They've also announced that they are going to engage in a type of service where you, the artist, or you, the presenter, could pay for access to a live stream. So let's say you say, okay, check out DJ Adam Cruz at this time, but you won't be able to get the live stream unless you pay. So they're putting the live stream behind a paywall for those that wish, because now we're engaging in things like virtual conferences, virtual workshop, live DJ parties, and things like that. So this is going to be a huge game changer all across the board. The signs are that we're going to be dealing with this pandemic for months to come. So I think we're going to see more of these kinds of services come up for us to take advantage of. So let me know what you think about all of these services and what they have to say now during this quarantine time at freedomradiohour.com, and check us out on the app. Check out our YouTube channel. Check out all that we've got to offer. Let us know what you think. Leave a comment. Thank you so much. That's all the time we have, obviously. Thank you to our broadcasting partners at Capital Radio 91.6 FM. Of course, have a great weekend. Have a great weekend and a great week ahead. I feel like a little tongue-tied today, so don't mind me. Trying to get through this. And I'm trying to just keep myself calm and productive, right? So anyway, like I said, have a great weekend and have a great week ahead. I'll see you next time. Peace.